Hi there, and welcome to Creepier Features. Tonight, you're in for a real treat. Tonight's film is Spectre. No, it's not the new James Bond movie. Sorry about that. If you were looking at a TV guide and thought it was the new James Bond movie, you're probably in for a disappointment, as this is the relatively obscure 1977 TV movie that Gene Roddenberry created. Still, it's an amazingly good TV movie. Set the Wayback Machine for 1977. Now, back then, aside from killer bees, UFOs, aliens, Star Wars, and the like, it was all good in the hood. Except for like killer bees, the black magic and the occult were sort of on the way out. It's like the relationship turned out to be not so much of a relationship with motion pictures as it was an infatuation with them. Anyhow, this film is wonderful in so many ways, but in some others, it was obviously kind of rushed in production. So you're in for a real good time if you don't look too closely at anything for too long. Be warned now, there are some naughty bits, near the end of this movie. I understand that they may or may not have been added in later for the TV movie's European film release, which may or may not be what we're actually watching here. Confusing, huh? Still, it should play well with the Cell Block 7 crowd. I can feel those ratings climbing higher right now. William Sebastian is the main character in this movie, and here he's played by Robert Culp, probably best known for his roles on I Spy and The Greatest American Hero. However, I always think of his appearances on The Outer Limits more. However, this really is one of his best roles. Now, Dr. Hamilton is his old friend in this movie. He's an outsider to the way William now leads his life, and he's portrayed here by Gig Young. This is Gig's last role, aside from Game of Death with Bruce Lee. He was also in an episode of Twilight Zone, but most of the time he spent was in supporting roles on movies. He won an Oscar for They Shoot Horses, Don't They, back in 1970, and after that, well, his career sort of went into a bit of a spiral. He was married several times, at one point to Elizabeth Montgomery, but in 1978, after filming this, he killed his current wife and then himself. There's still a Hollywood Boulevard star with his name on it. John Hurt plays Mitri, and later the same year had an alien burst through his chest. And of course, aside from being knighted, he's become even more famous for playing Doctor Who, although unfortunately now he has pancreatic cancer. Inspector Cabell here is played by Gordon Jackson, who was also the television director. That is to say, a character in the thing who was a television director, not the actual director of the Quatermass experiment. So there, a tie-in with last week's movie. Also, he ended up in the movie version of the BBC's long-running radio comedy series, The Navy Lark, playing Fatso Johnson, which is really confusing because he's kind of a skinny guy. Oh well, and he was also in Shaka Zulu. James Villers plays Sir Geoffrey here. He specialized in playing, for the most part, British aristocrats. He was also in several James Bond movies with Roger Moore. And he was also in an episode of The Avengers. And he's like one of only like 3 people in the cast who were in The Avengers. Like last week, everyone was. Oh well, what's up with that? Now, the story was by Gene Roddenberry, but the script fell to Samuel L. Peoples, who also wrote the Where No Man Has Gone Before second pilot for Star Trek. And he also wrote the first episode of the Star Trek animated series. He went on to write quite a few episodes of Space Academy the same year, and then almost all of Jason to Star Command the following year. And the 1970s Flash Gordon animated series, he wrote most of that too. I'll be back later after the movie to gab on a bit more, but you will like this film if you haven't seen it before. And in that opening scene, note that there's no wall surrounding the door that Major Barrett opens to let the doctor in. Just some curtains outside the door and a black flat. And the wind moves all the curtains around so you can see there's no wall. Shh, no one will ever notice.